Hello guys, it's Peter and Eddie from PS Sound.
Hello.
And now this is, which part is it? Part what?
5, I think.
Part 5 possibly.
We'll see.
We'll see.
If I'm wrong.
So this is going to be another short video showing how we pull the wires into the car.
Few of the wires, because we can't pull.
Not everything.
Yeah.
But before we put the interior back, we had to put in the speaker cables, power cable. So we'll go through how the power cable came into the car with that beautiful tool. Yeah, they can show this beautiful rod with that sharp edge, what that's for. And then at the end of the video, we will test the car on the road.
And hopefully we won't lose the footage.
Hopefully. All right then, let's do it. We couldn't record it when we were doing it because it's such an involving job, especially, this part. It's not something that I would call the best solution, but in many cars there's no other option you can do. So there's a factory loom coming over there through that grommet, and there's always a bit of space next to it. You just have to figure out which side you can go, so you have to check it from the engine bay as well, so you don't end up drilling through the cables or getting into your pipework in the engine bay or anything like that. So you can see this 4-gauge cable, it's already braided and it's pulled into the cabin. So beautiful tools. We have this threaded bar that grinded off, made sharp, so you can get into that rubber grommet, and then if you spin it carefully, then it will make its way through.
Yeah, make sure you don't mess up the wires, the original wires.
Yeah, you have to be really careful with that. That's why I don't prefer doing it. I would rather run the cable underneath the car if there's no other option, or you can't make a separate hole somewhere on the firewall and fit a gland. But in most cases you don't have access to that because you don't have space from either side of the firewall. So this is always one of the parts that people don't want to show. It is what it is, but it has to be done. So once you have hole through the grommet, then we use, that was an antenna, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was an antenna, I think.
Something flexible.
Thin, flexible. Yeah, it can be anything. That's not going to break. So the cable gets taped onto it, firm and strong, and then carefully, that's when you need two people. One pulls it from the inside and the other one carefully pushes it from the outside, paying attention to the engine bay situation, where, as you can see, if I can zoom onto that, that's where the cable comes in next to the factory loom. So came in there right next to it, but there's, as you can see, a brake line really close as well. So it's a very careful action, and it's not on the ideal side because it's on the other side of the engine bay, so we have to run that cable through towards the battery where we can put the fuse holder. You always want a main fuse holder on the main power cable run as close to the battery as possible. According to EMA competition rules, it has to be within 40 centimeters, so roughly around the foot distance, to protect that cable running through, because if anything happens, gets shortened by the firewall, or there's an accident, you want to make sure that that cable is protected. It's not going to melt down, warm up or anything like that, and then plastic or anything where the cable runs inside of the cabin, anything could catch fire. So this part is done, and then you can see how Eddie pulls all the rest in on the time lapse.
We have 3 pairs of speaker cables running to the front, each side to the 3-way speaker set, and an extra line running to the front as a switch with the control cable. So these are those 2 lines for the DSP, the control and the switch. We put in an optical cable just in case we will ever need it in the future, because once the carpet goes back, it's not great to, you know, run an extra cable. Who knows whether we use it or not. But first, the system will just run on streaming, which is built into the DSP. Ground point is here, as you could see from time-lapse. Eddie sanded it back where there was a factory bolt underneath and then sprayed over it, so it's not going to corrode. So we have the ground point there for the amp, all prepared, braided, ferruled, all the usual things. And then now we can put the carpet back. Yeah, exactly. The moment of truth, finally the car is back in one piece. It looks filthy, yeah, we will clean it, but we are going to take it out to the road and I want to see what it measures like. But already it feels so much different. Everything is soft and dead, as all the panels had the foam on. We put that carpet back into the trunk, but it's not going to be there because we will completely build it up. Subwoofer is going to be there, amplifier is going to be there, everything is prepared, all the wiring. But we want to show you something because it's quite funny. So the pressure vent in the back of this car is here behind this bumper. Every single car has a pressure vent, normally on each side, or at least one on one side, which is needed for the car. When you shut the door, then all that pressure has to escape. The same way if you put the aircon on the fans on, then the pressure has to go somewhere. So look, hang on, this is gonna be funny. So now this door is not shut, it's kind of just sealed against the rubber seal, and if I move it, you can hear the flap going.
Sounds funny.
I don't want to say what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But you can feel as I'm pushing the pressure in the cabin, that flap is making that weird noise. We will have to take that flap out because when we have the sub in the car, we don't want that to cause that annoying noise. For now, it's just fine, but that was interesting. But everything feels solid now. That rear section is dead.
Plus the roof.
Yeah, that's okay. You go over. So that's an untreated steel piece. is super that because we have
Yep.
multiple layers. Everything. Yeah, you have flex in it.
Come on, you're gonna put some
But-
dents in it. Leave it.
Exactly. So, okay, let's see. Let's see if the car starts after 2 weeks.
Go on.
Go on. Come on, little Suzuki. Alright.
And now you should be like, oh, it's so quiet inside.
Okay, so we are on the road now, and this was the first spot 2 minutes away from the workshop on country roads, doing 40 miles an hour, 4th gear, and this was the same spot, so go for it.
Hold on.
Cool.
I'm gonna save that.
Okay. So now we drive around 10 minutes to a, it's not a highway yet, but we were doing 70 on that road and then we will do that part. Okay, so this is the next part where we get up onto 70 miles an hour and I'm gonna give the go to Eddie. Go.
Hold on.
Okay, one more. It's with a bump in the road. Go.
Wait a second.
Okay.
I want another one.
Yep.
Yeah, they are the same.
Okay. Yeah, because one single bump is probably like 2 measurements out of the average of 50 that we are doing. It wouldn't show, but I just thought, you know, let's just redo it again.
No, they are
You can see
exactly the
it's
same. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we are 1 minute away from the part when we get onto the better surface, and then we will do 50 and 70 on that, and then we have all 4 measurements. We are nearly there. We are not cutting this part, at least you can see how big fun it is. Watching us drive.
Ew.
Meow.
Power.
You know what? I'm not doing that shortcut. I go through the roundabout, and I'm gonna overtake everyone because it's a sport Suzuki. That's it. That's what the viewers want to hear. Listen to that. 7K. So, all right. Let's calm down.
Nearly got wet.
Hang on. We're gonna do 50. Just a bit slow down.
No, it's on a good surface.
Yeah, it was exactly here. Go.
One.
Okay. And then now we do 70. Before someone starts to tailgate me. Okay. Go.
Hold on.
Happy days. Let's see those results then.
Yep.
Here we go, the results before and after. This is what it was all about, really. I've done this test before in the E63 AMG, but unfortunately I couldn't find the content of that. And the noise reduction in that car was even better than in the Suzuki. I'm going to explain why at the end. Let's just go through it step by step. So this was without treatment, doing 40 miles an hour, a few minutes away from the workshop on worse road surface. So after the treatment, that's what we managed to achieve. As you can see above
35 hertz. The reduction in noise in low-end rumble and higher frequency wind noise is pretty much linear throughout the whole spectrum. It managed to drop it at most areas with 65.6, 60, so around 5-6 dB, like up at 1 kilohertz. That's 43, and that is 35.7. So yeah, it's more than 6 dB over there, 7 point something. So it shows. Straight away we could tell the difference when we sat in the car and we drove it with Eddie. So then after that we had doing 70 miles an hour on not the best road surface, but doing 70 miles an hour on the main road. And you can see that we were driving faster, but the low end rumble was less because the surface is better than when we were doing 40, which is the red. But of course above 200 hertz, when you drive faster, the road noise, the wind noise comes into play. So we take that one out because that was a 70, and after the treatment, bang. So over there it doesn't show that much because the low end rumble on the better surface is not that high, like when we're doing 40 on bad road surface, you can see. But then above 150 it's similar, like up in that range, that's 51.7 ish, 44, so it's more than 7 dB on the top end, around 1 kilohertz. When you hear that beautiful wind noise, it managed to take it down, and we could have a decent conversation straight away in the car, even if he was sitting in the back. I didn't have to shout that much. However, on the recording it sounds pretty noisy because that phone we used for recording that little test, you could see, wasn't the best quality, just shoved into the corner of the windscreen, and I even taped over the mic. I didn't even pay attention to it, that's why it sounded so bad, so sorry for that. But I wanted you to see how we did it. So after doing 70, then we went to the better road surface dual carriageway, where we have first 50 miles an hour speed, and low end rumble, and the top end was also quieter without the treatment. But then after the treatment, same way, under 150 the reduction is 60, 57. It looks like it's only 3 dB, but then further up it's 40.8, 48, 7.5 dB easily it shows. And then doing higher speed on the same surface, it doesn't introduce too much lower rumble, but then interestingly I saw this on pretty much every single measurement before and after, that around between 110 and 130 we have a peak. So that was before. Let's take that one out, and that's after. It still shows. I think it's the exhaust. It's the exhaust on that particular rev doing 70 miles an hour that shows, and I think that will be reduced more once we have the trunk fully fitted. We didn't do crazy job on the trunk itself. You could see from part 4, because the whole trunk build is going to come there. We will have the sub box on the top of the floor, the rack for the amplifier and the panels and everything, and that will block probably most of that noise which comes from the exhaust. But the same way, we have the same around 3-4 dB, and then the upper range we have 43, 50. So we have around a good 7 dB drop straight away on the top end, and it definitely changed the car. Maybe for some people now it looks like that the reduction on the 150 hertz is not that much, and it's because I always say that if you really want a super quiet car, it's better to start with a car that's quiet to start with, you know, by factory. This is an entry-level car where the firewall is single layer. It's not dual layer. There's no cavity. If you take a grommet or anything out of the firewall, you can see the engine bay straight away. And the firewall is not even a really thick material. So when you compare it to even a BMW 3 Series, which is not even a 5 Series or 7 Series, straight away, even in a 3 Series, you can hear that you hardly hear the engine. Also because not just the firewall is dual structure, but because the factory puts in decent amount of foam molded to the firewall, which is the isolator for the mass loaded vinyl by factory. So normally most new cars come with the foam and the mass loaded vinyl, which is the barrier. That's the best option, just like we used on the floor in the Suzuki, you could see in part 4. So by factory, you have that from all the way from the top of the firewall all the way to the rear seats. And that's where they stop normally, because then the rear seats act as a blocker and absorber, and in the trunk you have so much stuff going on the top of the floor. Or if you have a saloon, then the parcel shelf is soundproofed, and that blocks the noise coming from the back of the car. And those cars are just so much quieter than this tiny little hatchback, which is dead empty. Yes, people could say that if we want the best sound quality, then we shouldn't really start with a car like this, and I agree with that. If you want a really quiet environment, then start with a car that's quiet by factory. Then do your job, what we've done now, and that's going to reduce the noise to a level where it's just beautiful. Like the BMW 6 GT we've been working on lately, and I'm sure you've seen many videos of it. That also had a good 6 days work put into it on the top of the factory soundproofing, and that car is super quiet on the road. You can have a conversation so easily, like if you were talking in the living room, without raising your voice, and you hardly hear anything, hardly any wind noise, which is also due to the fact that the door seals are better on those cars. Everything is just a bit thicker. All the chassis and you know, the body parts of the cars are thicker, so the doors are sturdier by factory. And then when you sound treat those panels and do what we've done in the Suzuki, then magic happens. The same way that's what happened in the E63 AMG. Yes, that car has a V8 engine and crazy exhaust, but when you cruise along like this doing 70 miles an hour, you don't hear much from the exhaust or the engine. And if you do this level of soundproofing and sound deadening, then it's a beautiful place to be in. So in terms of how relaxing the drive is now in the Suzuki, yes, it's not like a BMW 7 Series. People shouldn't be unrealistic about it. Yes, we've spent a lot of time and material cost is what it is, but there's one important element. So this sound deadening and soundproofing is not just about making a super quiet environment for the sake of enjoying music at lower levels and having a more relaxed time, but also when you build a sound system, you want the car to be rigid. You don't want it to flex, you don't want it to rattle when you listen to music, when you have bass going on at louder levels. And that's the other part of this job, why it's required, because you can have the best sound system, but when panels start to vibrate, when the roof starts to flex, then you see the whole console at the front of the roof where you have your light switches, roof controllers and all those things. When the roof starts to flex, those areas will buzz and rattle crazy. That's why it's important to do all this, and not just for the reduction of the road noise. So yes, hopefully there's something to take away from it for you guys. it has definitely changed the car, 100%. Yes, there's a fair bit of a weight in it as well, and you can feel it on the performance as well, because it's just a 1.6 liter 125 horsepower car, and surely it can affect your consumption as well. Probably affects it a few percent, but it's negligible, to be fair. But I couldn't care less when it's about building a great system, and that's what I have to focus on, is just a part of it. There's no system that would sound excellent without this first step, so never look over it. This is something that you have to do right at the beginning. Plan a system with this in mind, because once you start building, you don't want to go back, you don't want to take things out. So before you buy amplifier, speakers, anything like that, always look at, okay, how can I make this car quieter? Except if you buy something like, yes, a Mercedes C-Class, an Audi A8, a BMW 7 Series, or a high-profile Lexus, those cars are so quiet by factory that you may not need to do anything really, other than attacking the areas where you have bass playing, like the trunk, or if you have speakers in the doors, then you have to treat the doors. But then you don't have to go crazy with the floor, with the roof, and all those things. You can do way less work in a higher profile car. But then of course you have to go into your pocket and then pull out more money. Yeah, there's a sacrifice here or there. There's not much you can do about spending money. So this is now part 5. Hopefully you guys, you enjoyed it so far. Let me know what you think about this part. You could see the wiring as well. And now we will have a bit of a gap till we can deliver the next videos for you, because we have so much work that even with Eddie together we are struggling to keep up. And finding time to fit the Suzuki into the gaps is now tough. We literally have to schedule working on the Suzuki just like any other customer's car. So we will see when we find time for it to carry on, because we will have to do speaker installation, mid bass, mid tweet, then the whole trunk for the sub and the amplifier. But surely it's not going to be such long time like building an extreme car like my Honda or the Beamer 6 GT or Chris's Mark 1 TT. But definitely stay tuned, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, follow this playlist as well, and then as soon as we have any content we are going to deliver it to you, and you can see which direction we are going with the installation, and hopefully you can all learn a lot from it. So this is it for this one, and yeah, stay tuned, and I'm going to bring the next one as soon as we can. Take care.